Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and what a delight and an honor to have back with us our good friend, Erick Stakelbeck. He is the director of the Christians United for Israel's Watchman project, and I want to find out what that's all about. But you've seen Erick all over the networks. He is considered one of the great experts on terrorism and what's going on around the world. And we have a lot to talk to him about in a short amount of time. But first of all, Erick, good to see you, friend. How you doing?
Perry, great to be with you. I'm doing good.
Good, good. Hey, listen, what is the Christian United for Israel Watchman project? What are you doing there?
Well, CUFI, this is great, Perry. I just started in January in this great new adventure, Christians United for Israel, CUFI, founded by Pastor John Hagee. It's the largest pro-Israel group in all of America, over 3 million members. So it's kind of the tip of the spear of the pro-Israel movement from the Christian side here in the U.S. And the Watchman Project is a major multimedia initiative that I'm heading up at CUFI. And the centerpiece of my new role is a weekly show on TBN, the Trinity Broadcasting Network, called The Watchman. It's an all-new, relaunched Watchman show on TBN, and we're getting to Israel on the ground frequently, still hitting Hamas, Hezbollah, ISIS, all the threats, but also showing how Israel is a light unto the nation, showing all the positive things going on in the land of Israel. I even occasionally put on my Indiana Jones hat, Perry, and do some biblical archaeology stories, so it's been a lot of fun.
I'll have to call Matt to see if we can air it on the Dove Network.
Yes. Matt Kraut's great guy and big friend of Israel for sure.
All right, let's get into it. One of the most horrifying attacks since 9/11 happened over the weekend, as you well know, there in Orlando. And our administration and president is still struggling with how to handle this. This is serious stuff, and even now we have the CIA mentioning this morning that there's more coming. I would assume this is all in the wake of Ramadan over the next several weeks.
Yeah, Perry, I think that's a great observation. Look, it's very unfortunate that Ramadan, which is a holy month, the holiest of times for Muslims, is also a time for an increase in Islamic terrorism. Hamas talked about it last week after the vicious terror attack at a cafe in Tel Aviv, and now ISIS is saying it in the wake of that Orlando attack. I believe, and I hate to be a doomsayer here, but Perry, I call it like I see it, and the Bible says my people perish for lack of knowledge. This is what's going on. We're going to see more of this terror in the West. I'm sad to say. The barbarians are not just at the gates, they're inside the gates, as we've seen in Orlando, Brussels, Paris, San Bernardino. ISIS has a network of supporters and sympathizers here in the West, and there are cells here in the West. That's no secret, in particular in Europe, but the threat is also very real right here in the United States.
Instead of declaring war on radical Islam terrorists, we're debating and filibustering gun control in the U.S. Senate. Have we lost our minds?
Yeah, we have. I mean, at least the left has in this country, Perry. They're using this as a way to advance the gun control agenda, and I knew they would. And the New York Times wrote an editorial the other day basically blaming conservative Republicans and Christians for the Orlando attacks. It's a world turned upside down, and the left is at the forefront of that. What we should be focusing on is this jihadist threat. Look, terrorism is only a tactic. It is driven by an ideology. And if you do not understand, or if you cannot even acknowledge that that ideology exists, like our current administration, you cannot defeat that ideology. That ideology is radical Islamic jihadist ideology. The ISIS points to Islamic teachings, Islamic history, and says, hey, we have the real message. We're just carrying out what we've been taught. If we can't confront that, we can't defeat it.
A lot of criticism for Trump, but I have to tell you what he's saying about terrorism and how to handle it, and perhaps suspending immigration for a while until we get a handle on what's really happening in the United States. He is saying things that a lot of people like. In fact, Erick, over the weekend, he said something that I've never heard anybody say yet. I've heard you say it, but I've never heard anybody else say it, and that is this. The radical Islamic terrorists are at war with America, with Jews, with Christians. They hate gays, and they want to control women. I mean, he put it all in one basket.
Yeah, I mean, he's right. And they're also, by the way, at war with other Muslims who don't agree with them, Shiite Muslims. They are equal opportunity murderers, the likes of ISIS, Hamas, Al-Qaeda, etc. They've waged war on the world, and they have declared war against the United States. Perry, whether we like it or not, this is a war. It's a global struggle, and right now we are far, far behind, in particular in the war of ideas. Because at the end of the day, we could crush ISIS militarily. We won't under this administration. We should, but we won't under this current president. We could, but it's that war of ideas. How do you counter the ideology? I believe if you crush this caliphate that ISIS has established in the heart of the Middle East, in Syria and Iraq, crush it militarily. David Cameron, the British Prime Minister, Tony Blair, the former British Prime Minister, have said the same thing in recent months, Perry. Let's crush them where they live and breathe, and then hopefully you put a dent in the ideology and you demoralize the followers around the world. Because if ISIS doesn't seem like it has momentum, that it's ascendant, you would think it wouldn't be as attractive for those young, radicalized Muslims around the world.
All right. Boy, this is really it's just overwhelming right now, what's happening here. But a lot of people now think that Trump's rhetoric is still too tough. But on the other hand, a lot of people are saying he's saying the right things. Here's the question. You got your ear to the ground, Eric. You hear a lot of what's going on. Do you think at the end of the day, the faith community will embrace Trump enough not only to win, but to understand that he gets the war on terror?
It's tough to say, Barry, because a lot of people definitely like Donald Trump projects strength. And he says the right things about Islamic terror, as you said over the weekend. He projects strength. And the alternative in Hillary Clinton, the Democrats, the Obama administration, is so weak and so feckless and so out of touch that that's one thing in Donald Trump's favor for sure. But there are a lot of Christians also who question where he's at in his walk with the Lord, Perry. That's a valid point. I don't know the man's heart. But it's kind of a dual thing there where he projects strength. He says the right things about Islamic terror, which is the greatest threat we face. And the alternative is obviously a disaster, Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders. But on the other hand, I think Christians do have a question about where he's at in his walk. But I think at the end of the day, when November rolls around, Christians, by and large, will pull the lever for Trump because the alternative is the continued decline of the United States.
Every time God wanted to save his people, he used a pagan king. And when I was looking in Isaiah 44 and 45, he used King Cyrus. In fact, he called him anointed, even though he wasn't a believer, and blessed him with the tools to save the country. I mean, could that happen for us through Trump?
Perry, that's a big leap. I don't know. Donald Trump, Cyrus, I don't know. I don't know the man. I don't know his heart. Anything is possible. I hope that's the case for sure. I hope it is. We shall see. We'll see what God has in store. God is a God, as we know, of many surprises, and he can use the most unlikely people to set things straight. But we do need a Josiah-type figure, I think, Perry, who turns us back to the Lord, who embraces the Judeo-Christian foundations that made this country great. We're desperate for that. We are desperate for revival right now in this nation. And I believe if we keep going down the slippery slope we're going down, we're in big trouble and we're playing with fire.
This administration has not only cut our military to one of the lowest levels prior to World War II, but they certainly have cut the funding for FBI to do its job. My concern now is that the FBI is going to get blamed and demonized as a result of this attack in Orlando, which probably weakens the FBI if they come out with any kind of an indictment against Hillary. But the bottom line is, we are so far below with this administration of cutting our ability to protect ourselves that I don't know if the average citizens realize how serious this really is.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think when you have a leader, Perry, that won't identify the enemy, that won't utter the words radical Islam or jihad or Sharia, you've got a big problem because he's willfully misleading the American people. He's giving off the impression that this is just an isolated threat, that it's just a criminal action that we're up against, that it's not part of a larger global jihadist movement. So there's an attack like Orlando or San Bernardino. People are awake for a few days and then they fall back asleep, it seems, because the Obama administration's whole message is move along, nothing to see here. Now, in the case of so we need some intellectual honesty and intellectual courage among our leadership, which we won't get until at least January 2017. But with the FBI, you make a good point, Perry, because since 9/11, our law enforcement, our intelligence services have done a great job breaking up dozens and dozens and dozens of these plots like we saw in Orlando. You can't get every one, but they've done a great job. My concern is that Omar Mateen, the Orlando terrorist, he was brought in for questioning by the FBI and released. Same deal with the Boston bombers, Perry. One of those brothers was brought in for questioning and released. So I have a concern that because the Obama administration has this moratorium against using words like jihad, radical Islam, Sharia, we're teaching about these things that maybe our agents don't know the right questions to ask. Maybe they are missing some of the warning signs in some cases because of this culture of political correctness.
Where I was going to go, I mean, this is a PC thing that's now used as intimidation against the very people that could be enforcing some kind of security. I mean, it could be that the FBI and the police departments know that if they go too far in questioning a Muslim, they're going to get slapped down.
No, that's true. I mean, I think not only law enforcement and intelligence services are scared of this political correctness, Perry, but average Americans. You remember the San Bernardino, during that attack, one of the neighbors had seen suspicious activities going on in that house where the terrorist and his wife live, but they didn't say anything. And they admitted this. We didn't say anything because we were afraid of being called racist. That's a big, big problem. First of all, Islam is not a race. It is a religion practiced by whites, blacks, people of all Arabs, people of all shapes and sizes. So let's get the racism card right out of there. Number two, political correctness. If this continues, it's going to get more people killed. Without a doubt, it's going to get people killed. It already has.
Wow. Well, Eric, best to you. When's the new program going to launch?
It launched in February, Perry. It actually airs tonight, every Thursday night on TBN, 8:30 your time, Pacific time. It's still called The Watchman, but all new relaunch. It's got a great look, great production values. In all modesty, I say that. So I think you'll really like it. Tonight, 8:30 on TBN, and we're in ancient Jerusalem tonight. Really cool stuff.
Oh, good. Good to see you, my friend. Let's stay in touch, okay?
Sounds good, Perry. God bless you.
All right, God bless you. We'll be right back.
I'm Paulina Leiser, producer of Focus Today. Thank you for watching this video, and make sure to check our other videos at theDove.us.